Taquari is breaking his silence and explaining why his brother allegedly set up Duke the jeweler. He's backing up his words with receipts, shedding light on some serious claims. And in the midst of all this, Boosie stepped in to respond to the situation. The drama surrounding Taquari and Duke the jeweler's tragic death has been wild, and people are starting to wonder if Boosie and his crew are really as clean as they claim. Duke got shot and lost his life in Houston right after a dice game where he reportedly came up heavy. The thing is, right before his death, Duke and Boosie were seen kicking it together, and Duke even posted a pic of them on his Instagram, which turned out to be one of his last posts. Now, Boosie's been running around saying he barely knew Duke, that Duke just showed up at one of his concerts and he bounced solo after the show.
Some dudes had tried to rob me and walked off by himself, bro. I had just met dude yesterday.
Boosie later slid through on Vlad TV to clear the air, saying straight up, he had nothing to do with Duke the jeweler getting murked. According to him, he barely even knew Duke like that. Said they met at a dice game, chopped it up real quick, then boom, dude ends up dead right after. Boosie even said it could have been him if the timing was different, like he was low-key spooked by how close it all went down. He claimed Duke walked off on his own after the game, headed to the parking lot, and that's when he got hit. Boosie made it clear he wasn't nowhere near the scene when it happened. He's swearing up and down his team don't move like that they too well off to be out here plotting on folks who win a little cash at a dice game. But here's the thing, folks online still ain't buying it. Like, Boosie making sure to say all the right things, but the streets ain't stupid. The fact that Duke posted up with Boosie right before he died was not just a coincidence, it's a red flag. And Boosie know it too. That's why he's doubling down, saying these rumors don't fit his character. But when you gotta say that much to prove you innocent, people start asking questions. That interview Boosie did alone had people second-guessing Boosie's credibility. And here's where things get real murky. Boosie's crew ain't exactly the type to mess with people unless there's something at stake. He also made it clear that his people are financially good. So the idea that anyone would be out here robbing or hurting someone doesn't add up, unless there's more to the story than he's letting on. But that's not all. You also got TQ, who's been calling out Boosie on some real family beef in the past. Fraud, favoritism, all that. Now TQ's out here saying he's got receipts that prove Duke got set up. But the real question is, why's TQ talking like this now? Some folks are thinking Boosie's name might be more tied to this whole situation than he's letting on, and it's looking like the truth is buried under a whole lot of drama. But let's take a look at that whole Duke situation once again and see if we've missed anything important. So here's the sitch. Duke the jeweler, big name out of Chicago, pulled up to Houston for Labor Day weekend back in 2022. Word is, he came out there specifically to do business with Boosie, trying to move some serious pieces, rumored to be rocking over $1 million in ice and cash. That same day, Duke hit a celebrity boxing match, then slid to a private dice game where Boosie and others were chilling. Boosie said on multiple occasions that Duke gambled hard that night, but in the end, he never managed to win a dime. Regardless, Boosie also says Duke was not a sore loser. In fact, he played it super chill, even though he basically lost all of the buck he had on him that night. Later on, Boosie asked Duke to make a diamond chain for him, and Duke told Boosie he'd be down to ice him up with a unique piece as a way of showing respect. Not long after that, one day later, there was a concert where Boosie was performing and Duke was in attendance. After everything was finished, Duke dipped out solo to head to his car, but he never made it. Witnesses say two dudes hopped out a black GMC, ran up on him, dumped shots, and peeled off with his jewelry and his bag. Straight up ambush. That move looked way too surgical to be random. Boosie's been pushing the same line since. It wasn't him. It wasn't his people. He say Duke left alone and somebody must have been watching him, plotting on that bag from the jump. But the feds are now in it, trying to figure out who was all in that room and if this whole thing was a setup. But let's be real. No charges, no suspects, no answers. Duke's stuff, still gone. And Boosie is still talking, but not saying much that clears the air. The main reason why nobody wants to clear up Boosie's name in this one is because he got pulled over right after Duke got killed. It looked like a regular traffic stop at first, but the timing was sus. It went down right after Duke was robbed and murked, and folks on the internet started connecting the dots. Once the feds stepped in, it was clear this wasn't just another rapper legal drama. They made it known. This is a separate investigation. No delays, no distractions. Boosie isn't just a witness here. He's being looked at real close. Duke's brother Stax came forward and called it what he thinks it is: a setup. No sugarcoating, no hinting. He flat out said he believes Boosie lined his brother up. He's been checking footage, timestamps, the whole nine. Duke wasn't just any dude. He was a respected jeweler with high-profile clients and heavy pieces. That night, he walked in proud, showing off his work, never knowing he wouldn't make it out. And then comes the real kicker. Houston PD reportedly found that same Louis Vuitton bag with Duke's jewelry inside Boosie's house. Not storage, not held by a friend. His house. Allegedly, Duke asked Boosie to hold it during the dice game. But after Duke was killed, that bag never went back to his family. No police report and no statement. Just sitting there like it belonged. And now Duke's phone is missing too. No one saw it. No one's talking. So, let's be real. Duke shows up to Houston with over $1 million in jewels, links with Boosie, goes to a dice game, ends up dead, and somehow his bag ends up in Boosie's house? The feds ain't letting that slide. Now y'all, let's start with the facts. The feds ain't new to this, and every phone got its own digital fingerprint. They tracked Duke's phone. It didn't just disappear. It pinged right at Boosie's recording studio, and it was basically a dead giveaway. That was the last known location before it went dark. Let's be real. Phones don't just teleport, so unless that phone walked over there by itself, someone from Boosie's circle had it. That's already looking shady. Somebody got sloppy, or they just didn't care who was watching. When the feds checked out Duke's rental truck, they were expecting something, but not what they found. What they found was Boosie's own nephew's fingerprints. That's blood. That's inner circle. And then it got worse. Boosie's little cousin got caught up too. So now you've got two family members linked directly to the scene. This ain't gossip. This is hard forensic evidence. Here's what else we know. One eyewitness stepped outside to smoke. Just a regular person. They saw Duke leaving Boosie's house, and at first, everything looked chill. Duke was calm. It was business as usual. But then, Boosie's nephew creeps out. Not through the front, but from the side like he was already posted. Some think this was a clear sign that we're talking about a setup. Now, according to Fed reports and street talk, Duke tried to swing first. He wasn't caught slipping, he tried to fight, but it was already too late. Boosie's nephew pulled the strap and fired. A few moments later, and it was all done. This wasn't no random beef, this was personal, and it looked planned. Now here's the part that really has the feds tightening the screws. Duke's jewelry was kept by the cousin and them. Whether they robbed him or just didn't give it back doesn't matter. The point is, they held onto it. Now we can't go about this topic without bringing up TQ. Boosie and his brother TQ are not on speaking terms, and haven't been for a while. And it's not just a little brotherly fallout. We're talking lawsuits, allegations of fraud, and over $360,000 stolen from Boosie's bank account. According to police reports and court docs, Boosie says TQ went behind his back, forged his signature, and even played a part in helping Boosie's artist, Young Blue, sign with Empire without his knowledge. Like, that's not just shady, that's full-on betrayal in ink. Now, of course, TQ denies all of it. He's saying none of it happened, that Boosie's tripping, and that he didn't do what he's being accused of. But Boosie, he's not budging. He's made it very clear. He no longer considers TQ or any of his side of the family as part of his own. Yeah, it's that serious. But here's where it gets even sadder. This isn't just business, it's emotional too. Boosie's been open about the family pain behind the scenes. He feels like their own mother has always taken TQ's side, even after everything that went down. He said he feels shunned, like no matter how much he's done or been through, his mama will always choose TQ. And what's worse, she's apparently been asking Boosie to drop the lawsuits. Boosie's talked about how this favoritism didn't just start with the money. He claims it's been a lifelong thing, that TQ's always been the golden child, and Boosie's just been trying to fight for his respect. So now, on top of feeling financially betrayed, he's carrying years of emotional wounds that just got ripped all the way open. And look, from the outside, it's heartbreaking, because you don't want to see brothers go to war like this, especially in public. But at the same time, $360,000 in forgery, that's not something you just hug out at Thanksgiving. This isn't a petty sibling fight. This is real-life damage, both to Boosie's business and his heart. As of now, there's no sign of reconciliation. Boosie's done. The legal fights are still floating in the background, and the emotional wounds are wide open. Sometimes family can do you dirtier than strangers ever could, and unfortunately, that seems to be the case here. But Boosie isn't the only one who never managed to clear his name from this Duke the Jeweler case. Such is the case with J Prince too. Now here's where the street politics come in. Everybody's looking at Jay Prince like, how did this even happen? Y'all know Jay Prince is known for enforcing that whole check-in culture. If you pull up in Houston, you're supposed to check in. That's the rule. Don't follow it and you risk getting robbed, set up, or worse. So if Duke did check in and this still went down, that's a problem. People are saying, did someone give the green light? Because if you're in Jay Prince's city and something like this happens, it raises questions about who really allowed it. People saw Duke gambling with Boosie and Jay Prince Jr. just hours before he lost his life. That right there is enough to think that there was more to the story. Jay Prince, of course, wasn't here for the accusation. He made it very clear that just because his name carries weight doesn't mean he's pulling strings every time something bad happens. He called out law enforcement and the media for even trying to connect him to the case when there was no proof, no charges, no suspects. Jay Prince Jr. also spoke up and shut it all down. He said neither Duke's murder nor Takeoff's death had anything to do with dice games, setups, or his people. According to him, it was all just tragic timing. He made it crystal clear his crew had nothing to do with any of it. Legally speaking, there's nothing that ties either of them to what happened to Duke. The police never named them as suspects, and there's been no credible evidence linking the Princes to the shooting. But let's be real, this ain't about paperwork. This is about perception. When you're a power figure in hip-hop like Jay Prince, people assume you're either in control or aware of everything happening in your space. So when something deadly happens in your orbit, folks expect answers, even when there's no proof you were involved. That's the double-edged sword of having influence in the streets. So yeah, Jay Prince's name got dragged all over the internet, not because of evidence, but because of energy. People felt like something didn't sit right. The check-in culture he's known for started getting questioned. Like if checking in doesn't guarantee your safety, then what exactly are we doing here? Are these rules for respect, or are they just street politics dressed up as tradition? At the end of the day, it all comes down to speculation. No receipts, no leads, just a bunch of rumors and gut feelings. And Jay Prince is clearly tired of being everybody's scapegoat. As he put it, just because his name rings bells, don't mean he's the one ringing them. But let's be honest, the timing, the people involved, the Houston connection, it's a lot. And the streets are gonna keep talking until they feel like they've got closure. Charleston White had a lot to say about what happened to Duke the jeweler. He said it hit him hard to see someone like Duke lose his life like that, especially in a setting that should have felt safe. For him, it was another sad case of violence in the black community, and he didn't hold back on calling it out. He also pointed fingers at mob ties, mainly Jay Prince Jr. and his people. According to Charleston, they're creating an environment in Houston that's dangerous for rappers and entertainers. He claims when artists check in with them, they end up getting pulled into high-stakes dice games that are already rigged. He believes that's exactly what happened to Duke, that he was set up, thinking he was good, only to get played. Charleston's been consistent about this. He says there's a bigger issue in the industry where people are calling it protection when it's really just extortion, and he feels like a lot of folks in the game are letting it slide. At the end of the day, his take is that Duke's death wasn't random. It was part of a toxic cycle that needs to be called out. With everything going down around Boosie lately, it's obvious that the feds are starting to look a little closer at him and the people in his circle. We already know they've been watching. Boosie's had a long history with law enforcement, and even though he's beaten plenty of charges in the past, that kind of spotlight doesn't just disappear. And now, with stories resurfacing about his brother TQ and those old fraud allegations, it wouldn't be surprising if investigators started connecting some old dots again. It's not just about what happened in the past. It's also about who's around him now, who's getting caught up in what, and whether any of that starts bleeding into federal interest. When one person in the circle gets jammed up, the feds tend to pull on every thread they can find. And let's be real, Boosie's never been the type to back down or play nice, which can make him more of a target than most. Now, as for Jay Prince, his name always floats around anytime something major happens in Houston. He's managed to stay out of legal trouble for years, but every time someone brings up mob ties or there's a high-profile situation like what happened to Takeoff or Duke the jeweler, people start asking the same questions. How much control does Jay Prince really have? And is anyone going to finally step in? So far, there's been no official action against him. But when enough names keep popping up in enough different stories, whether it's dice games, checking in, or just being present when stuff goes left, that kind of attention can eventually turn into something more. It's hard to say whether law enforcement is ready to push harder, but one thing's for sure, people are watching. At this point, all eyes are on what happens next. Will Boosie and J Prince keep skating past the heat, or is something bigger brewing behind the scenes? Let us know what you think. And if you're still locked in, then make sure to check out this next video too.